Hey guys, it's Rachel, and today I am going to be showing you guys a video of me setting up my ginormous desk with my wonderful boyfriend who helped set it all, pieced it together. I just painted it. But it looks awesome. It's kind of an IKEA hack. We kind of did a mixture. We were originally going to build it from scratch, but we found almost the exact same measurements and certain things from IKEA, so I will do a voiceover and I will have the video speeding through so you can see things. There were a couple setbacks and there were a couple things that were kind of frustrating, and I will talk about that as well in the voiceover. But currently I am organizing everything on my desk, so once that's all done I will take photos and I will also post them as well on my blog, and then I will start filming tutorials for you guys. So I'm really sorry that it's been a while since I posted a video, but I was moving in and then we were building the desk, and so there wasn't a lot of time to be able to craft and there wasn't a lot of space. So this is also really good for anybody who lives in LA or Chicago or New York, or anyone who lives in a very small apartment, because I don't think that you should have to have an entirely different separate room to be able to craft. It's really expensive, and I think you can craft anywhere. So we came up with a solution where it's basically a standing table and the legs of the table are storage to help maximize the space in a studio apartment. So you'll see all that and putting it together and painting, and I'm really sorry for the lighting and for having trouble seeing anything that I'm doing down there, so I'll try and explain that because I had the computer, which is what I was recording from, on the bed, stacked up on pillows actually, so it can't always see what I'm doing in the very front right by the edge of the bed. But we put down a blue tarp, and most of it was painting, so I'm just going to speed through that so you're not bored. Alright? Cool. Then I'll get to the video. So to start off, I am sanding down the 2x12 board that I had got, and we had 3 pieces cut off the end of it with, so each piece that we had cut of the 2x12 was 6 inches because I wanted my shelf 6 inches tall, so 2 for the ends to hold it up and 1 in the middle just for support. I am starting to sand with the blocks. I really like that instead of just the regular flat sanding paper, and it is an 80 grit, and then if you want you can go up to a 220, and then I believe the next one is a 320 or something like that. But you know, it didn't need too much sanding. I just wanted to kind of finish it off. The primer really helped out. So the 80 grit for me was fine, but if you really want a nice smooth finish, I recommend doing the other to the 220 as well. We put down 2 plastic drop cloths as well that I got at Benjamin Moore Paints, and I hate them. I put them on top of the tarp because originally we did not want the tarp covered in paint, but it was very difficult working with the plastic, and so we ended up changing our mind and deciding that it was okay. I do recommend at least putting down 1 of the plastic, or if you have a canvas drop cloth, or ideally even a thicker plastic would be best. I recommend putting that down, especially because this is a small apartment. It caught all the sawdust, so I did not have a mess all over the place, and it was so helpful, and I didn't have to then try and vacuum and deal with all the sawdust all over the tarp and getting into my paint job. But I do really wish that I had dusted beforehand. I did not remember to dust the ceiling fan that is right above where I'm working before I started, and so what happened later on was I kept getting little particles of dust falling into my beautiful paint job, and it was kind of heartbreaking, but you know, I was able to kind of gently take them out for the most part and everything, and it didn't have to be perfect because it is my work desk and I'm just filming videos and everything for you like that. I'm right now, after sanding, I'm taking a damp cloth, in this case it was paper towel, but I do recommend a rag, and I just lightly went over all that, get all the sawdust off of the wood, and then I took off, as you saw, the first drop cloth. I'm unwrapping the tabletop. I do have 2 tabletops from IKEA, and I will link everything in the description below and on my blog. So it's kind of an IKEA hack in a way, and I had to do several rounds of painting because I had a very small space, so I had to rotate them. But this is the BIN primer from Zinsser Bullseye, and it is a great primer. My only problem was it was white and the table was white, so sometimes it was a little hard to see. I do love it though. It worked great for the wood. I got really smooth paint job. It dries in about 45 minutes, so you can recoat after 45 minutes, and I just make sure to get all the sides of the table and anywhere that will have paint on it. I would also like to mention that the primer is incredibly smelly. It has a really strong smell, so I do recommend wearing a respirator. I also made sure to put all the windows open that are behind me to let the smell out as much as possible. So I recommend definitely leaving your windows open and wearing a respirator. Paint and the paint fumes are not good for you, so just keep that in mind if you are going to be making a desk or painting in a very small space like I am and not in a garage or outdoors. Do remember that especially there are certain areas, like the back of my desk is not going to show, so I didn't worry, or the seam in between the two tables that we're going to connect is not going to show either, so don't worry about wasting paint and primer on those sections. I did do 2 coats on everything, which you will not see because it would be really boring to watch me paint for a very long time. I think this video is already long enough. However, the plastic was terrible and it did keep tearing, like I said, because it was so thin. I expected it to be thicker, and right at the very end, as I was priming the shelves, my first coat of primer, I decided on the shelves that I have as my legs, I was going to paint them, and I guess the plastic got stuck to my leg or to the jar, and it tipped over and it spilled the last of my primer, and so I was just slathering it on the boards as best as I could, but it worked out because it was just one thicker coat than 2 thinner coats. But I highly recommend you do not have the awful plastic. So here I have already finished doing the 2 coats of primer, and I primed everything else. So I had already primed the boards, as you see, and I have now taken, it was Bare Paint and Primer in 1 was my color in the green color, and then for the blue, which you will see later, is the Bare Premium Plus. And they had told me that I did not need a sealer for the paint and primer in 1, but I really recommend it. I originally wanted a chalkboard paint, and they said that I didn't need to do a chalkboard paint, and I really think that I did need to do a chalkboard paint, because this is really meant for walls, even though it says all indoor and interior. And so the polyurethane that I sealed it with really helped to strengthen the paint so it doesn't feel quite as rubbery, and it'll be easier for cleanup for spills and messes and things like that. I did paint the 2 shelves green, as you see. However, I decided that I wanted them blue. So that was in part because originally I was only going to paint my flower pots blue that are going to be on my desk to hold all my brushes and everything. But I decided that I wanted more of that color. Blue is my favorite color, green is my boyfriend's favorite color, and it was just so much green. So I wanted to edge all the sides of the shelf and the table in blue, and I figured that it would be a nice pop of color to have blue in my shelves as well. I would like to mention that the really cool thing with the blue paint was I had just gotten it in a sample because I figured that I was just going to be painting the flower pots, and I didn't think about edging the table or doing what I'm going to end up doing later with it. But the sample was only $2, and it went a very long way. So I ended up going back later and actually getting paint in orange because I got more flower pots and I wanted to paint them orange with blue trim, and they look amazing. So if you want a really cheap solution and you just need to edge something or do something like that, I highly recommend just getting 1 or 2 little cans of the sample paint, because they go a very, very long way. And I actually still have paint left over in the can that they gave me, and you'll see I did a lot on this desk, and it's a very big desk, so that was probably my favorite part about the whole entire project. You'll see I end up adding even more blue later, but that was kind of because a mistake happened. But it worked out for the better. It was a happy accident, and I love my table actually all the more for it. So I think it worked out, but it was a little bit of a fright, and it was a little upsetting, but you're upset for 10 minutes and then you get over it and you find a way to make it work. So I am going to continue to let this video play, and I will pop back in when I remember something, but it is just a lot of painting. I'm currently painting everything in the front of camera that you don't tend to see. I am just painting the little 6-inch inserts that will hold that top shelf up. So that's all I'm doing down there. Nothing too exciting. So at this point I have finished doing my 2 coats of paint on the front table, and as you can see, again, I'm painting now those shelves blue. I do have the inserts for the top shelf and the one of the tabletop pieces all nicely lined with blue painter's tape to do a nice blue edge around all of them. So I'm just painting that right now, and I'm also going to do 2 coats of that as well. Hey guys, so this is day 3, I think, of painting. I have definitely learned a lot, but I was doing the edges. As we saw, I taped up the edges, and I went to go peel off the tape this morning, and I had my paint and primer completely peel off. So that was pretty heartbreaking after several days of work, but I think I have a way to fix it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and reprime gently. This paint is almost like rubber. I could just take it and just peel strips off right now. So I'm going to try and be very careful. I am going to seal it with a polyurethane to really try and seal this in, so hopefully there aren't any more problems. But I'll try and reprime it. I'll try and do a patch job. This will now be my back panel, but I don't want to put any more blue painter's tape on the second tabletop piece that I have that I still need to do the edges on. So what I'm going to do for that, hopefully it works out, is I'm going to paint the edges blue, and I'm going to let it bleed over, and I'm going to let it drip down into the table. So hopefully that'll be really cool. I don't want any drips too thick because I do want a flat surface. This will be for filming future videos for you guys. That's why I'm building this. So I'm going to get back to work, and I'll speed up the video again, but I thought I would kind of talk you guys through it. I did not seem to have a problem taking the paint off on the wood pieces. I did take the tape off too, and I have nice clean edges here. So I will put Scotch tape on the really big back top shelf piece. And I did finish the shelves, and I don't really need to worry about the sides there because they're going to be set into it, so you're only going to see the top. And same with the putting it together. Don't worry about painting the back piece of anything unless the back of your desk is going to show, and definitely don't worry about the seam here at the table. I didn't paint any of that because no one's going to see it. I'm going to screw them together. So I'm gonna get back to work, and I'm gonna speed this video up again, okay? So my brushes were hard because I did not plan on using any more primer, and I I just got throwaway brushes, and there wasn't very much primer left, like I said, because I had spilled most of it. So I was just lucky that there was a little bit left in the jar, and I just kind of dabbed on a very, very, very thick layer. I did go slightly over into where the paint had not peeled because I wanted a seamless finish again, and kind of to seal all that in, because there were still pieces that were kind of peeling up. Like I said, it was like rubber. You could just take it and just strip it off. If you do have an orbital sander, I recommend sanding down the finish on both of the tabletop pieces and the shelves, because they are made out of the same material. It is just MDF that IKEA has, so be careful. But a light finish, a light scuffing, and taking off how smooth it is, I think will help a lot. BIN primer is supposed to stick to basically anything, but I guess not the tops of IKEA tables. So that's not a big deal. I did fix it. It did work out. You can't even see it. And my products are stuck in the shelves anyways, so it's not a problem at all. I did give it an extra amount of time to dry, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, instead of the regular 45 minutes, before I put on the green paint. And also, for the green paint that I did when I went over it, I only did one coat for the most part, unless there were little things. And that brush was also hard because I was done and I was just gonna throw everything out. And so what I did, and it worked out really well, was after I globbed it all on, I smoothed everything out with my finger into the finish that was already done and fine, and it was seamless. It was great. It worked perfectly. So there's only a very small line that you could tell where the paint had ripped off. I'm also now doing the other piece, and I'm just taking my finger on that one as well. There were some flecks of white primer, I guess, that had dried on the tarp or on that clear sheet that were kind of flicking up into my paint job. I think it would be a lot easier, and this project did take me about probably 5 days, almost a week, and that was in part because I had to rotate pieces because I was in a very small space. So if you have a garage, it'll probably be done in a weekend. Right now what I'm doing is I am doing the drips for the back panel that I messed up now that it's all dry. And all I did was take the blue paint and my brush, and I scraped it against the edge that I wanted the drips to go down, and then I just held the board up at a vertical angle and even leaned it a little bit forward. I am sorry that I was not able to get good footage of me doing the front piece, which you can see behind me currently in the video. That was a lot of fun to do. I was hoping to get some close-up shots, and then I realized that the camera was tilted the wrong way. But it was really easy, really self-explanatory. Just take the blue after you're done with your 2 coats around the edges, and just slowly, wipe it off, have some extra on your brush, and let it drip, and it's that simple. And you can hold it there vertically as long as you want for longer drips, or shorter for shorter drips. I didn't want them too far into the table because I really did want a flat workspace, but I think it looks really cool. And the best part was when we pieced it together, the drips actually look seamless on both sides. Unintentional, but it worked out really well, so that was pretty awesome. And I'm just finishing up the sides. This is with the polyurethane. Now you can see how shiny that is. It is a semi-gloss finish, and I think that was the right way to go. Originally I had planned on satin, and I wanted semi-gloss after seeing the satin. So at this point, I get to take a break after days of work, and my boyfriend, who wanted to be shirtless for the video, or at least this part, because he did this for me after a very long day of work, so I thank him for being really, really helpful. He is the best. He is assembling the shelves currently right now, and it's pretty standard IKEA stuff. I'm not going to show him assembling the second one because it's the same thing, but I will recommend. We originally got a drill from IKEA, a $20 drill, and it works great if you're drilling things into IKEA stuff, but it is not powerful enough to go through the wood pieces. So we did actually have to go out and buy a real power drill for about 40 to, I think we ended up paying 70 It's a Black & Decker one, but you know, it is great, and we can use it around the house, and we'll use it for building future projects and everything like that. And those shelves, I know they look very flimsy right now. They're made out of metal. They're incredibly sturdy because the 2x12 is really, really heavy on the back of the table, and it holds it great. We did add clamps, 2 clamps in the back to just hold it to the table, and then 2 clamps on the side where the seam is, because we didn't want to glue it down to the table, the leg tops. We didn't want to use a construction grade glue or drill or anything like that, because we wanted something really easy to take apart when we move into our next place, because I do want to keep this table for a very long time. And the clamps are out of the way. You can hardly see them, honestly. So I think that was the best way to hold it. It was heavy enough that it would have held on to the tabletops itself, but you know, why not have extra security? So I will come back again once he is done building the legs of the table, and you'll also see that we originally put down big flat panels, which I did a close-up on, and to hold the two pieces for the tabletop together, but they were actually very thin, even though they were sturdy, so they were bending in half when you wanted to move them. And I found the zinc the zinc ones that I wanted, which you'll see, which will look really tiny compared to those that we put on later, and they held the entire thing together. So I recommend just getting those. They came in packages of 2, and they even came with their own screws. And so also just make sure that you check that you are not drilling through your tabletop, because you don't want holes into your tabletop. But other than that, nice and simple, easy peasy. So very quickly, I did want to mention, I don't know if any of you guys caught it, you probably didn't, that in the first few shots with my boyfriend, he had no tattoos on his forearms, and now he very clearly has anchor tattoos on each side. He was actually playing Popeye for a really cool event at a cemetery that was like a live history tour, and so I'm actually going to link the video down below, so any of you guys that like Popeye and want to check it out, it's a really quick short video, but he did a great job, and I just wanted to let you guys know that because there are very obvious tattoos in this shot. So as you can see at this point, what we are doing to attach the shelf together, the top shelf, is we just used L brackets. Keep it really simple. It was really strong, really sturdy. So he is just screwing in the L brackets right now. And this is when we absolutely hated the power drill that we had, and the drill bit kept coming off and getting stuck in the wood because it just wasn't strong enough. So we decided to leave and go to Home Depot and come back with a much better drill, which is also when we found the other pieces that will hold the tabletop together a lot better, which you'll see coming up very soon. And other than that, it was really straightforward and really simple. We put 2 L brackets on the bottom of each and then 2 on top to really just hold it and keep it steady. And that was nice and simple. So these are all the little pieces. Here's the awesome drill, and he's ready to get going again. I do want to make a quick note, which is that especially with the wood in particular, so it doesn't split, but even with the MDF and everything else, I really recommend pre-drilling your holes instead of just trying to drill straight in with the screw. It helps out a lot, it makes it a lot cleaner, and in the case of wood, like I said, it will cause it to have a clean hole instead of splitting it apart. So that is my one word of wisdom to you. And he took a little bit of extra time, and he just used a regular screwdriver to put the screws in because he didn't want to use the power drill and accidentally strip the screw head, because we would like to disassemble at some point and take it with us when we move into our next apartment. So here we realized as we were putting up the top shelf that the shelf was about an inch too short to be the exact length as the tabletop, and that is totally fine. That was totally fine with me. We just had to make sure then that it was centered. We originally wanted it to run the entire length of the table, but when you get wood like a 2x12 or a 2x2, it's not always exact measurements, so you do have to be aware of that and just make sure that you are measuring and double checking and everything like that, instead of just assuming that it's all perfect measurements there, because it's not. But it wasn't that big a deal and it wasn't off by that much, so at this point we realized instead of doing the two outside legs that we would inset them just a little bit and have just a little bit of an overhang, because it looked prettier that way. And then we were just trying to figure out where center was on the board and the table for that middle support piece. And after that, I highly recommend just marking your holes and everything like that. I do also recommend pre-drilling. He made life a little hard on himself in this step, but that is okay. It all worked out, it all got put together, and it's all really sturdy, and he was so helpful, and he works really hard, and so to put in basically a day's worth of work just drilling and setting all this up was really, really nice of him, and I love him very much for that. And it looks fantastic. And I know that behind him right now doesn't look too pretty. The blinds are torn, which is why we have like pieces of paper up there, and then obviously the air conditioner. And I wanted something really nice to as a backdrop for my art area. So you'll see us hanging curtains. They were too long. They unfortunately didn't have the 63-inch ones that we wanted, so we ended up getting, I think it's 80 or something like that. And then all I did was I just taped them up until I can get a better solution, and I can, you know, cut them and hem them and sew them and make them nice. But they look great, and now they're the right height, so when you watch that, just know that that's what we're doing, and it will all look fantastic in the end. I will also, at the end of this video, leave photos of what the desk looks like after all my product is in it, and there will be a more detailed description along with more photos on my blog, which I will link down below, and my Twitter and my Instagram and everything like that. And I also have some behind the scenes photos of him being very serious and drilling into the desk and stuff like that. So really easy, and it held together great with those other beams for the seam of the table, and then we'll just lift it and set it up on top of the shelves. So now we are picking up the tabletop and we are setting it onto the legs, and he had some crazy ninja moves as that came down, and we have hung the curtain, and we did install the curtain rod and everything like that. So that is all ready, set to go, and you'll see that now we are adding the clamps just to hold it into place, and we just decided to keep them there, not just for when we were moving the table back against the wall, but in general just to keep it all together and nice and sturdy. And it was a ginormous table. Originally the dimensions we wanted were 40 inches deep and about 34 inches tall. The desk is about 36 inches tall and 46 inches deep, because that is what happens when you go to IKEA, but it's all finished and it looks great.